Today we've got stories from our Turkish American neighbors for you.
This is really a good intercultural, interfaith dialogues for us, which we are familiar with them and did it for many years. And now, first I want to introduce myself, then talk about what's happening in the Turkey last few years from my perspective, and a bit about my story, what I have been faced in the last 5 years. Then after that, if you have questions, please feel free and ask questions. That I'm actually, I was born in the eastern part of Turkey, in a small village. I am fortunate because when I was age of 7, we have a school. I mean, before there wasn't any school there in my village, and only one classroom in one school. Grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they should all in the same class, and one teacher. And it was really amazing, the effort of teacher. I never forget the face of my teacher since 30 years ago. And I completed my high school education there, and then moved to Germany because most of my family are living there to study university there, but I couldn't find any good place that I want to study there. And I came back and studied medicine in Turkey, in eastern part, another city in Bursa. Actually, there should be, okay. You may know where the location of Turkey is here. No, I was born here, and then moved to Bursa, the eastern part, studied that medicine there, and then back to another eastern part of city, Erzurum. I did my residency there, clinical chemistry. Then moved north part, and most of my academic career was here. The Black Sea, you know. And lastly, I was the president of one foundation university in Turkey, in Konya. You may know or don't know, according to our law, we have only two types of universities, state university or foundation university. There is no private university, okay? It should be non-profit organization, only they can build up some universities. And I was working there about 5 years until the political situation go worse, and then I decided to move from Turkey about 5 years ago. Actually, I did my residency, then worked about 10 years at State University, and more than 15 years at the Foundation University in different positions. I teach clinical chemistry, biochemistry, and building upon my experience, I have written 7 textbooks, more than 100 publications, And as I said, lastly, I was a founding president of Mevlana University. But you may know what's happening in the Turkey. But I want to briefly recall you what's happening there. Actually, the government now is ruling. The party is established about 2002, and they, how I say, the first two terms of the government was really good. They promised more freedom, more democracy, and integration with European Union, and zero problem policy with neighbor country. And they did some things. Because they did that, we supported the ruling party for 2 terms. But after 2 terms, everything is changed. The prime minister became a dictator. Therefore, I like the election system here in the US, because they don't allow that you be a candidate more than 2 times. It's really good for that. And after 2 terms, as I said, the prime minister became a dictator, and first he ignored the separation of power and assumed all the power such as judiciary, military, police, and etc. On his hand. And second, he started to silence the media in order to hide his corruptions. He either overtook the media or shut down the media institutions. Now the media in Turkey almost are pro-government and governed by his son. Okay, that is not open. I mean, 1 or 2 media maybe, but almost the media is now pro-governments. And what he did third, the government has started to make oppression on the academic institutions and limited the freedom of academicians. Therefore, I decided to move to the US and continue my academic endeavors here in 2014. And I thought if there is a democracy in my country, the government like this will be changed soon. I mean, through the election. Therefore, I planned to stay here for 6 months or 1 year and then go back. But it didn't happen what I thought. And the government has started to jailing all his opponents, including but not limited the Hizmet affiliates. I mean, Hizmet movement, which you may know, Hizmet movements. What they have activities, worldwide activities about education, interfaith dialogue, intercultural dialogue. We started maybe 20 years ago, and now there are maybe 117 countries, the schools, universities, and the main mission of the Hizmet movement is contribute to peace of world by education, by interfaith dialogue, by intercultural dialogue, what he did. And Mr. Glenn, which we inspired from his philosophy, he started these movements maybe 40 years ago. And governments, because we didn't support the government anymore, because he changed his policies and started to corruption and other things. That's why we didn't support him after the 2 terms. But he says, you are either with me or you are terrorist. There is no other options. And to justify his blame, he orchestrated a coup on July 15, 2016. Immediately after that, he shut down 15 universities, more than 1,000 schools, hospitals, charities in Turkey. And so I changed my plan because I see that it is not safe that I go back, and I changed my plan, and only I went to Turkey to bring the rest of my family here. So the day I had an appointment with U.S. consulate, the police officers knocked my door at 6 a.m. and invited me to police station. I was custody, and then we were living in Ankara, the capital city. They took me to the another city, which I was a president of university in Konya. When we arrived there, all the media, TV channels, and they were waiting for us. At that day, the first news on all channels was about me, that the president of Mevlana University was custody. But 1 day later, they released me because 5 years ago, it wasn't so bad like these days, current days. And later, I tried to reach the consular of U.S. Embassy, because I knew him before when I was the president of Mevlana University. I sent an email him and get a new appointment for visa. We got a visa and I moved to US immediately. But before we moved from Turkey, my daughter-in-laws passed away in Nigeria, and after giving a birth, and left 2 kids behind her. And my wife, she said that I won't come without these kids. We brought them as well here. Now they are living with us. And after we came here, Actually, the first problem, our first priority was to survive our family here. How can we survive them? Because making a decision and coming here means that you lost everything there. Your title, your jobs, your backgrounds, and your wealth. You left there and come here and beginning with a new life from the beginning, as if you jumping in the sea and trying to learn swimming from the beginning. New country, new culture, and as a medical doctor, it is really hard to working here because you have to pass USMLE exams, 3 steps, and do residency again. Actually, I try to do always short ways, long ways, and to provide and to survive my family. I took the USMLE exam, but also I applied for a green card, and I also applied for job, teaching or research job, which was really hard. To overcome all this problem, first I started to study at San Jose State University in California to improve my language. Then I moved to University of California, Davis. I was working there more than 2 years in Cancer Research Center, which was unpaid position. When I completed my research, I finally find a paid position, 1 year fixed term at the San Carlos State University. Last year I moved here. Now I'm working there, maybe one month more, and then looking job again. It is really hard to apply for a job because, as I said, totally different culture and different countries. And preparing a CV, cover letter, statements, and marketing yourselves, which is unusual in our culture. But you have to overcome these handicaps and get some help from front of you. And I started to apply for jobs 2 years ago, and I thought that I need to start it from the first stair because I am new here. I have a huge experience both in teaching and research, but all of them is from my country. I applied for lecturer or assistant professor position. When the search committee considered my CV, it says you are overqualified for this position. When I applied for tenure track, associate professor or higher position, they says, okay, you have a huge experience, but in teaching and in research. But most of them from your country, you have not much experience here. And it is really hard to explain them why I am here at this age and why I am looking for a position. I also applied for certification of my residency as I said, I am clinical chemist. In order to working in the hospital and clinical laboratory, I need to certificate them, and I apply for them at the American Board of Clinical Chemistry. They said, okay, if you provide that you have experience in clinical laboratory, which is internationally accredited clinical laboratory, we can make a decision based on this information and allow that you take a board exam. And I tried to obtain the evidence from my country. It took 1 year to take some documents from my country, and I sent to the board. Three months later, I received a letter and says that I had to send my residency, how we say it, the transcripts from the school I did my residency to the board directly. Yes. But nobody responds to my emails, my phone call from Turkey, the department I did my residency. I sent my nephew from the city where I was born to my chair, and he said that he scared to give any documents. Therefore, he couldn't send any documents to me. Then I explained to the American Board of Clinical Chemistry the situation in Turkey and said them, please consider my application, the documents, what I send you. And they considered their situation in Turkey and sent me acceptance that I can take a board exam in last 3 years, which is good for me. And I also, when I started to teach here in the St. Cloud State University, it was really a big challenging for me, because before I didn't teach in English. I mean, I started on weekend, and on Monday I had to teach biochemistry, and nothing is ready for me. In last years, I have such hard times, but now I am more confident to teach biochemistry, clinical chemistry, and as the good thing is that our religion teach us how to be resilient in this kind of situation. In Quran, God promised us to test us with various means, and the whole history is full of story of prophets, saints, which suffered under oppression of dictators, and God tests us and advise us to be patient until recovery comes. We shouldn't complain. That's what we are trying to do, but sometimes it's not easier. I mean, saying is easier, but applying is not easier. But compared to the situation of our brothers, sisters, who suffering in Turkey, we are in heaven here. Now, what I mean, now I am looking a job, but at the same time, I am trying to advise the colleagues, my colleagues who is fortunate that could leave from Turkey to come here, because now most of my colleagues are either in prison or sitting at home because they detained from universities, and the government doesn't allow any institution or any private company hire them. Also, doesn't allow that they leave the country. Some of them, they live illegally ways and come here, and now I'm trying to guide them how to apply for job, because since I have some experience in last 3 years, 4 years, and also we trying to help our colleagues in Turkey, and also we trying to pray for them. But what we can do, and if you ask me, create a awareness for of this situation in Turkey by writing or talking with other friends. Also advise or guide the academicians, who are new here. It is really hard for them, even though prepare a cover letter or any CV or statements. If you are new here, how can you obtain the reference letter? If you can't get them from your country, because nobody want to send a reference letter or any documents from Turkey. These are what I faced in last few years. But now I am good. I am fortunate that when I'm thinking my colleagues which are now living in Turkey. Okay. Thank you very much.